the church. He's kind of feeling all bedraggled and broken down, but he goes up to the altar and he drops down on his knees. He says, "Dear God," he says, "I want you to know I'm down on my luck. It's written, ask, ye shall receive. I need to win the lottery." Does his Hail Mary, walks out, and everything's all happy and whatever. Oh boy, the title gave this away, didn't it? So after the third time he comes in, he's all bedraggled and just looks like, whatever. He falls down on his knees, and this booming voice says, "Buy a ticket." You have to buy a ticket in life. You have to get involved. You have to go out and dive into all of this thing. Now, one of the other things I'd like to do is I'd like to use peripherals. And I know that a lot of times we use slide decks, but speaking, you don't have to always do that. And sometimes you can just use like a deck of cards. So for instance, here, could you shuffle those up for me? Take a look at them and make sure they're actual real cards, and whatnot. But the thing is that in life we get dealt a deck of cards. You get dealt different things, and you have to make something of that. You have to go through and figure out, where do I want to go? How do I get there? How do I make this whole thing work? Now, years ago, I used to be, there we go, thanks. So there's all these cards, and I just want to mix them all up because it's kind of interesting. You've got these cards, you flip some of them upside down, have to go through the whole deck, and it's like, how do you figure out what you want to do? Do you flip some of them? Do you not flip some of them? In fact, I'm going to need some help. Would you guys like to help me flip some of these?
Sure.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this. So if we were to go through here, flip or don't flip?
Flip.
Flip or don't flip? Flip, don't flip. Flip, don't flip. Don't flip. What about these? Okay. Don't flip. All right, quicker.
Flip.
Flip.
No flip.
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 Okay. You want to do some more? Flip, don't flip.
No.
Well, the thing is that in life you go through and you got all of these different challenges, opportunities to get involved in life. When I was younger, years ago, I was working at Best Buy, and my manager was the kind of a guy who was a sailor. He loved to go out, he loved to sail, he loved to see what's going on, and we would get out on his boat and we would race. And every Thursday night after work, at 3:30, we'd head out to the lake. But we would do this sailing, and we would race, and we would get out there. We had a crew of 4 or 5 people, and and this is a big boat. It's a J-24, which is a large enough boat that you actually need a crew of people to make it all work. You got the guy at the helm who's making sure that things are going this way, going that way. You've got the foredeck person who's putting up the spinnaker and pulling us left, pulling us right. I was what's called ballast. So I was sitting my butt over the side of the rail, and he says, go this way, go that way. Well, we were trying to figure out how we can win more races, because really, racing is a game of inches, game of finding that win, finding that spot. And we took out a gentleman who has worked for us, that was a consultant, but he's also an instructor from J-World down in Key West. And he came on our boat once. We're like, okay, Scott, how can we win more races? How can we make this thing go faster? And the first thing Scott said, he says, you know what? You can't make this boat go any faster. The speed of this boat, it's a function. You got hull length, you got water temperature, density, air. There's a finite maximum speed that you can go. He said, you want to win races, you got to stop doing those things that slow you down. He looked at the back and said, that tiller, that's a brake. If you're fighting the tiller, you're slowing yourself down. We're like, yeah, right. But we want to win races. It's like, okay, tell you what, we're going to tie off the tiller. No one's going to turn the tiller at all. We're just going to sail around the lake like this. We're like, okay. We're coming towards landfall, and it's like, and we're sitting on the boat. He ties it off. We're kind of veering to the right. He says, move forward a little bit. All of a sudden, the boat starts going straight. I'm like, well, this is cool. He says, move further forward. All of a sudden, we start turning, and we're tacking, and we're going back and forth. And all of a sudden, now we're on the lake, and by moving ourselves and getting the feel of the boat, we got to a point where we were just screaming, going any which way we wanted to go. And it was because we stopped fighting all of those things that could slow you down. In life, you find this point. It's called a trim point. It's an equilibrium point. Airplanes have the same thing. You've got a trim point that an airplane hits. For instance, if you're flying an airplane, you take your hands off the wheel, what happens? You go crashing into the ground. Ask, what's his name, Payne Stewart, the golfer who was on the plane. They, pressurized whatever, everyone died instantly. The plane flew another, 8,000 miles until it ran out of gas and crashed. Why? Because the plane's got an aerodynamic trim point. And in life, there's a trim point where you stop fighting all those things that are slowing you down. You got to find what that is, and the challenge of doing that is to look for the right thing, that makes sense. Now, it's like when you look at the cards. We shuffle these up fairly good. You feel? What you got to do is you have to figure out how you can play the cards to your advantage. How you can make it all make sense, right? And the key is that when you look at it, you want to make sure you've got what? Jack, Queen. Oh, there's my ace. There's a king. And the only other card that's face up is a royal flush. So play cards.